Okay, it started.
Om Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedamscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tam Hadevam Atmabuddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Gurave Sarvalokanam, Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarvavidyanam, Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Right. Okay. Any questions before we move on? Anyone? Okay. Right. So, yeah, if nobody has a question, we'll move on. Is anybody having problem seeing my screen? Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So we left on 270 last week. We'll go to 271. So as we agreed, just repeat after me. Loka vasanaya
Lokavasanaya
jantoho
jantoho
shastra vasanaya picha
Shastra-vasanaya picha
deha vasanaya jnanam
Deha-vasanaya jnanam
yathavat
yathavat
naiva jayate. Naiva
naiva
jayate.
jayate.
naiva jayate.
लोकवासनया जन्तोः शास्त्रवासनयापि च देहवासनया ज्ञानं यथावन् नैव जायते. Okay. So in the previous shloka, the word used was lokanuvartanam. That lokanuvartanam is repeated here in a different word, lokavasanaya. Similarly, dehanuvartanam is here dehavasanaya, shastranuvartanam is shastravasanaya. So basically this is a continuation of the idea given in 270. There he said one has to relinquish or give up the obsession with the world, the obsession with the body, even the obsession with Shastra. That is the idea he promoted. And here he is giving the reason, logical reason why that should happen. He says, Jantoho. You know, the word Jantu is normally used for creatures like animals and insects and all that. But the word Jantu really means that which has a Janma. So anything that has a Janma or a birth can be called a Jantu. So in that sense, even human beings are Jantus because we have a birth and we have a death, obviously. So we are also Jantus. So the word Jantu here is a reference to human beings because nobody else comes to attend Shastra classes, right? So the Jantu here is the human being, and so the Lokavasana, Shastravasana and Dehavasana will obstruct the complete understanding of the Jnanam. Yathavat naiva jayate. Jnanam here is the Atma Jnanam, Brahma Jnanam, the teaching of the Vedanta, which tells that the Jivatma is none other than the Paramatma. There is no Jivatma separate from Paramatma. That knowledge is here the Jnanam, Atma Jnanam. That Jnanam Yathavat naiva jayate. Yathavat means in its true form, in its complete form. You can understand a little bit here and there, and then say, yeah, I mean, the teacher was saying something like that, but I don't think that is really true. You can have some such notion also. Even after attending Upanishad classes for 10 years, you will still find people who come with the knowledge, with the kind of view that, yeah, but all that is fine, but I really don't think that is applicable in my case. There are people who say that they are special case. So like that, so if you are still stuck up with your obsession with approval from your surrounding people, your obsession to pamper your body, and even taking the obsession with shastras to an extreme, that acts as an obstruction to a complete understanding of the Aham Brahmasmi teaching. So even Shravanam is not going to be complete. Mananam will not at all happen, and Nididhyasam, there is no question. So if you want to complete the entire Jnana Yoga Paddhati of Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, then these vasanas have to be kept at a moderate level, only to the extent it is necessary. So that was the idea we saw in the 270 shloka. Now 271 goes one step further and tells why that is necessary. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Can we move on to 272? Okay, right. So samsara karagriha mokshamichoho. I mean, I can't break this because it's one compound word.
Yeah.
So you have to somehow manage to tell the whole thing,
Yeah.
Samsara karagriha mokshamichoho.
Samsara karagraha mokshamichoho.
Ayomayam pada nibandha shrinkalam.
Ayomayam pada nibandha shrinkalam.
Vadanti tadnyaha
Vadanti tadnyaha
patu vasanatrayam
patu vasanatrayam
yosmad vimuktaha
yosmad vimuktaha
samupaiti muktim.
samupaiti muktim.
Okay, so samsara karagriha mokshamichor ayomayam padanibandha shrinkalam vadanti tadnyaha patu vasanatrayam yosmad vimuktaha samupaiti muktim. So here the Acharya gives an example to further explain what exactly will be the difficulty. The example is very powerful. So the example is this. Imagine there is a prisoner. The prisoner was sentenced to some sentence, maybe 3 years, 5 years, whatever. He was locked up in a cell, prison cell, and now today is the day of his release. So his sentence is over. He is now being released. Okay, so the jailer came and opened the door of his cell. Okay, so this person was eagerly waiting for the release date. So he wants to move out of the cell. So he takes a couple of steps and suddenly finds he is not able to move further. Okay.
Shrinkalam.
Yeah. Then he realizes that his two legs are tied to an iron chain, and the chain in turn is locked with two huge blocks of iron. Okay. So that is the Ayomayam Pada Nibandha Shrinkalam. So there are two huge stones or two huge rocks or whatever you can, very heavy objects, and his legs are tied using a iron chain to those heavy objects. So obviously he can't move. So unless somebody unlocks the chains and releases his feet, he is not really liberated. Even though symbolically the cell of the prison is open, the cell door is open, he's, on paper he is liberated. But the liberation has not really taken effect because he's still inside the cell and he can't move out. Okay, so the person who has undergone Shravanam and maybe Mananam, but still hanging on to that Vasana Trayam, that Vasana Trayam is the 270, 271, what we saw, Lokanavartanam, Dehanavartanam, Shastranavartanam. Those three together here, the Acharya summarizes as vasana trayam. 3 vasanas. If you are hanging on to those 3 vasanas, you will be like that person in the cell who, even though has a release, is not able to really enjoy that freedom because he is held back by the 3 or 2 heavy objects. So these 3 vasana trayam will also act like that obstruction which will not enable you to move further. Okay. So vadanti tadnyaha. Third line, first half. Tadnyaha means people who are knowledgeable about these things. People who are knowledgeable about what is bandha, what is samsara, what is moksha, what is shastra, how is one really liberated. People who have really understood the Vedantic teachings, they are called here Tadnyaha, the knowledgeable ones, the experts. Vadanti, they say, Patu Vasanatrayam. So the Vasanatrayam is exactly like that. Yo asmad vimuktaha, and one who is free from these 3 obstacles, samupayiti muktim. So he is the one who really attains liberation. So he is the real free person. So one might have undergone Shravanam and Mananam, and might have listened to 10 Upanishads or even 108 Upanishads. But unless this clinging on to those 3 obstacles which are explained in 270, 271, the person cannot really enjoy the fruits of liberation. Tam upaiti muktim. He is the one who is truly liberated. Yeah, that is 272. Okay, I think it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Any comments, any observations from anyone? No one? Right? Okay, so we'll go to 273. Jaladi samsarga vashat.
Jaladi samsarga vashat
Prabhuta durgandha
prabhuta durgandha
dhutagaru
dhutagaru
divyavasana
divyavasana
sangharshanenaiva
sangharshanenaiva
vibhati
vibhati
samyak
samyak
vidhuyamane sati
vidhuyamane sati
bahya gandhe.
बाह्य गंधे.
Okay, so jaladi samsarga vashat prabhuta durgandha dhutagaru divyavasana sangharshanenaiva vibhati samyak vidhuyamane sati bahya gandhe. Okay, so one more example the Acharya is giving here. The example is a piece of agaru wood. Now this agaru wood, I have not seen any piece of agaru wood, but apparently it is like sandalwood, and if you grind it and make a paste out of it, probably it gives you some kind of a sweet smell, some kind of a perfume. Okay, but then let's translate agaru here as chandana itself. Let's assume that agaru wood here is chandana, sandalwood. Now what happens very often, we use the sandalwood to make a paste which we use for the puja. Normally, you put some water and then grind it on a stone, a rough stone, and then you get a small amount of paste. And then after the puja is over, some amount of sandal paste will be left over. And we generally won't know what to do with it. So we'll put it back on that wood itself. I don't know how many of you have actually done this, but I have done it. I can relate to it.
I have done it. Yes.
Yeah?
I do it. Yes.
So when you create a lot of sandal paste and the puja is over, some paste left behind, and you can't use all of that. So you put it back on the wooden piece itself. But then if you have that kind of a paste which has been there for a long time, it actually starts creating a bad smell. The wood, the sandal paste will have a very sweet and favorable smell, but only for a few hours, as long as it is fresh. Once it is kind of dried up and old, it starts generating bad smell. Okay, so the example is that just like a sandalwood piece, a piece of sandalwood can have, the bad smell or foul smell because of the paste that has been sitting on top of it for a long time. So really speaking, the original nature of the sandalwood is a favorable, pleasant smell. But that pleasant smell is suppressed by the sandal paste, the old paste that is applied on it. And if you want to recover that pleasant smell again, what you should do is you should rub
Wash.
that old paste and remove it, and then the sandalwood regains or starts manifesting the good smell again. Okay, so that is the drishtanta. The word drishtanta means example, and in Sanskrit there is another word called darshtanta. Darshtanta is that original teaching which you want to explain by the help of the drishtanta. Okay, there is no equivalent word in English. In English,
Yeah.
you only have an example. Let's say I want to explain A to you, but I can't explain A directly, so I tell B as an example for A. Okay, now if B is the example, then what is A? A must be some original. Okay, and if you say B is the analogy, I would say A can be called the analog. Okay, in Sanskrit there is a beautiful word for it. The example is called drishtanta. The original that you want to talk about is called the darshtanta. So now we come to the darshtanta. The drishtanta is over. The sandal paste being covered by the old paste, having foul smell, you rub it and remove it and get the pleasant smell. That is the drishtanta. Similarly, the Atma or the Chaitanyam is really a Ananda Swarupam. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. In Taittiriya Upanishad we saw Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So, Brahman or Chaitanyam is Ananda Swarupam, but the people are not able to enjoy the benefit of that Ananda Swarupam because these three vasanas are covering, as though, not really covering, but the perception of Atma is obstructed by the vasana trayam, loka vasana, deha vasana and shastra vasana. So unless you remove these vasanas, the Ananda Swarupam of the Brahman or Chaitanyam cannot really be enjoyed. Yeah? So Jaladi Samsarga Vashat. So here the Acharya uses the example, the agaru wood is coming in contact with water, and because of the water, maybe some fungus is covering the agaru wood, and because of that, Durgandha Dhuta. Durgandha Dhuta means covered by bad smell, foul smell. Agaru Divya Vasana. Agaru is that wood. Divya Vasana is that pleasant perfume smell. Sangharshanenaiva vibhati samyak. Sangharshanam means to rub. To rub vigorously is sangharshanam. Vibhati samyak. Samyak is completely. Okay, you have to rub this old covering completely. Vidhuyamane sati bahya gandhe. At that point, the external foul smell is removed totally, and the inherent good smell or pleasant smell of the agaru wood will start showing up. So in this shloka, there is no darshtanta, it is completely drishtanta. There is no mention of Brahman or anything, but I think we have to understand the darshtanta as an implied teaching. In the previous shloka, the darshtanta was also there. The drishtanta was the prisoner being tied to the heavy blocks of iron, and then it is the fourth line said asmad vimuktaha samupaiti muktim. The darshtanta was also included, but in this shloka only the drishtanta is there. There is no darshtanta, but we have to understand that Brahman Chaitanyam being Ananda Swarupam, the Anandam can be completely, experienced or manifested only by removing the Vasana Trayam. That is the 273. Okay. Any questions? Can we move on? Right. So 274. Antah Sritananta
Antashritananta
Duranta Vasana
Duranta Vasana
Durantavasana
Dhuli Vilipta
Dhuli
Dhuli
Vilipta
Vilipta
Paramatma Vasana
Paramatma Vasana
Paramatmavasana
Dhuli Vilipta Paramatma Vasana Pragyati Sangharshanato
Prajnati
Prajnati
Sangharshanato
Sangharshanato
Vishuddha
Vishuddha Pratiyate
Pratiyate Chandana Gandhavat
Pratiyate
Pratiyate
Chandana Gandhavat
Chandanagandhavat
Sputam.
Putam.
Sputam.
Sputam.
Antashritananta Duranta Vasana Dhuli Vilipta Paramatma Vasana Pragyati Sangharshanato Vishuddha Pratiyate Chandana Gandhavat Sputam. Okay, so here this sloka, the Darshtanta is being introduced. For the previous sloka, we only saw the Drishtanta. Here the Darshtanta is being brought in. So, Antashritananta Duranta Vasana Dhuli Vilipta. That's one word actually. That's one compound word. Okay. Dhuli Vilipta. Dhuli means dust.
Dust.
Dhuli is dust. Vilipta means covered by.
Covered.
Covered by Vilipta. Okay. What is this dust? It is not some physical dust. It is the Duranta Vasana Dhuli. Duranta Vasana means dur. Dur means here bad or adversarial or unfavorable. Antavasana means inner samskaras. We also use the word samskara because all our vasanas and samskaras have been created over so many millions and millions of past janmas. So it's not so easy to get rid of them all in one go. So they are very deeply embedded. So these are all, not every vasana is bad. We also have a lot of good vasanas which we have to promote actively. But the problem is only when we have these unfavorable vasanas which cause obstruction, they have to be removed. Okay. So that's why the word Duranta Vasana is used to show that not every vasana is bad. The unfavorable obstructing vasanas, Antahashrita Ananta. That Ananta is very important because these vasanas are practically beginningless. They have been coming from Anadi Kalam. Okay, Antashrita means deeply embedded. Deeply embedded vasanas, obstructive vasanas, which have been coming from Anadi Kalam, and they act like dust, a coating of dust. Okay, and they cover the Paramatma Vasana. So, one of the examples we see, it is also coming in Bhagavad Gita. It is the example of a mirror. If you want to look at your face in the mirror has to be very clean. It must be shining. Only then you can see your face very clearly. Let's say the mirror is covered by a coating of dust. Then you really can't see your face properly. I mean, it doesn't have to be covered by dust. Very often if you have a mirror in your shower cabin near the bathroom, after you complete the shower, the mirror is completely covered by your water vapor. Okay, even that water vapor will obstruct you from seeing your face properly. Okay, so the vasana that covers the Atma Swarupam, the covering is not to be taken literally because Atma really cannot be covered. When we say it is covering the Atma, it means it is acting as some kind of an obstruction between your mind and the perception that the mind has. So the mind has to perceive the Atma as, the mind has to own up. I mean, when I use the word perceive, don't mistake me. You cannot really objectify your Atma. But when we say perceive, it is the owning up of the Atma Swarupam, Atma Lakshanam. But that owning up is, achieved by means of active vritti or active thoughts, harboring active thoughts. And these vasanas will obstruct the creation of Atma vritti or Brahma vritti. Okay. So that Paramatma Vasana is nothing but your mind reflecting on the teachings of the Upanishads and owning them up. So that is, the Vasanas act as an obstruction for that process. Pragyati Sangharshanato Vishuddha. Pragya here means the Nididhyasanam process itself. Nididhyasanam in the sense of you repeatedly remind yourself about the Aham Brahmasmi and other Mahavakyam teachings and meditate on that fact and internalize it and own it up as your true nature. And in the process, you repudiate all the false identifications that you have with your body, mind, sense organs, belongings, and everything. That is here called prajna. Prajna atisangharshanato. And atisangharshanato here means a very intense and consistent nitidhyasanam. It is not that you sit in some meditation for a few minutes today and then 10 days later you do another 5 minutes. No, it has to be a regular and consistent process, and that is how you can get over all these obstructive vasanas. Then what happens? Vishuddha pratiyate. Pratiyate means to manifest itself, to come out and shine. Pratiyate vishuddha. Vishuddha means pure, without any obstruction, without any sort of covering. Yeah. Chandana gandhavat is phutam. Exactly like how the sandalwood piece will start emanating that perfume like smell once you have removed all the coverings. In exactly the same way, the Chaitanya Swarupam, the Ananda Swarupam will also manifest itself. Slowly when you do the Nididhyasanam on a regular basis, you will start seeing a very gradual progress. It's not like from today to tomorrow you will see some big change. That's not going to happen. So the change will be gradual but perceptible, and you can really benefit from that. You will start seeing that your FIR is improving. Your FIR, if at all you maintain that FIR log, that FIR score will keep improving. The frequency will come down, the intensity will come down, the recovery time will shorten. All those things will happen, and you will start enjoying more and more peace and happiness. That is the 274. Okay. Any questions? Is my screen still visible, Vivek Chudamani?
Yes, sir, it's still visible.
Yes.
Okay. So, no questions? Can we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Anatma vasana jalaihi.
Anatma
Anatma
vasana.
vasana jalaihi
Radaihi.
Tirobhutatma vasana.
Tiro bhutatma
tirobhutatma
vasana.
vasana
Nityatma nishtaya tesham.
Nityatma nishtaya
nityatma
tesham.
nishtaya tesham
Nashe bhati swayam
nashe
sputam.
Bhati.
nashe bhati swayam
Sputam.
Sputam.
Swayam sputam.
Anatma vasana jalais tirobhutatma vasana nityatma nishtaya tesham nashe bhati swayam sputam. So it is practically the same idea but explained in slightly different words. So the word jalaihi in the middle of the first line, the word jalam means a net. A net. And here the word net is used in the sense of a trap. in the olden days, the hunters would use a net to trap a lot of animals. They would throw a net and catch maybe some birds or even maybe some smaller animals like a deer or something. So a net in Vedanta is used to denote something that can be dangerous or life threatening. Okay, you get stuck in the net. So anatma vasana jalaihi. So the anatma vasana here is compared to a net that will entrap you. Yeah. So anatma vasana, again going back to 270, deha vasana, shastra vasana, loka vasana, or dehanuvartanam, lokanuvartanam, shastranuvartanam. Those three are here called anatma vasana. What is anatma? Anatma is non-self. Atma is self. Anatma is non-self. Anything other than the self is anatma. So that is the simpler way to understand anatma. So anatma vasana is the identification with anatma, jalaihi, because of the net, the dangerous entrapping net. Yeah. Tirobhuta. Tirobhuta means to be hidden, to be eclipsed, you can say. Tirobhava means to hide something. Atma vasana. So the Atma vasana or the Ananda Swarupam of your Atma is as though eclipsed by the Anatma vasana, into which the mind gets trapped. The mind is what gets trapped in all these vasanas. Yeah? Because all the vasanas eventually are properties of the mind. The Atma itself doesn't have any property. It is nirgunam. So all the properties, all the whatever emotions and other attachments that we experience, they're all part of the mind. So this anatma vasana eclipses the mind and thereby prevents the mind from harboring atma related chinta or atma related vritti. Okay. So tirobhuta atma vasana. So that ability to reflect on Brahman Chaitanyam Atma is reduced or completely eclipsed. Okay. So what is the solution? Nityatma nishtaya tesham nashe. So nitya atma nishtaya. So the word atma nishtha is used again to denote nididhyasanam, exactly like how the word prajna was used in the previous shloka. In the previous shloka, we saw the word prajna for nididhyasanam. Here the word atmanishtha. Atmanishtha is basically to remember constantly in the background, in the back of the mind, that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not my sense organs, I am not my prana, I am not even my karana shariram. I have no connection to this world. So my true nature is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So those are the thoughts that one has to consciously harbor during Nididhyasanam process. And as I said in one of the earlier classes, if you have been constantly, consistently and regularly maintaining some kind of a Nididhyasanam meditation for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, it becomes a habit over time. And even while you are transacting in the world, you can still have that thought running at the back of your mind, like the Tampura Shruti of a musician. I always like this example, Tampura Shruti, because the musician, he may deliver a 3-hour concert, or in the olden days, they used to deliver 4 hours and 5 hours concerts also. But throughout these 3, 4, 5 hours of concert, the musician will never miss track of the Tampura Sapasa. That Sapasa is the constant for him throughout the concert. Exactly like that, for the Jnani or for the spiritual seeker, this Atma Dhyanam or Atma Jnanam thoughts have to be constantly at the back of one's mind. And initially it may sound very challenging, but it's something that can be attained through practice, and that's exactly what all the Nididhyasanam is all about. So Nitya Atmanisthaya. So the word Nitya Nitya here means regularly, consistently, and continuously. It's not that 24 hours a day you sit in Nididhyasanam. No, that's not going to work. Okay. So we are all in the society, we are all grihasthas, and we all have our family responsibilities and social responsibilities and all kinds of roles we have. So every day you spend some time. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 15 minutes. It depends on how much time you have on hand. And you choose a time of the day when you have very little external disturbances, and then spend these whatever minutes you allocate in sitting and closing your eyes and recollecting the Vedantic teachings, and you repeat to yourself that Aham Brahmasmi, Attat Tvamasi, all that, Soham, all those. If you do that, Atmanishtaya, Tesham Nashe Bhati Swayam Sputam, then the Vasana Trayam reduces in its power. It starts weakening gradually, and then you start enjoying this Ananda Swarupam of the Atma gradually. So Bhati Swayam Sputam means, Bhati means to shine. And when the Acharya says Bhati, don't imagine there is some light that's going to come. No, you won't see any light. Okay, you will start experiencing the the anandam that manifests itself in the mind. That is what the word bhati means. Okay, so very often we always look for some external reasons to become happy. Okay, and that's very often unsuccessful, because we get more reason to be unhappy from the outside world. Okay, so one of the first teachings of Vedanta is that you don't need an external cause to become happy or to be happy. You are happiness itself, but we don't know that. So the ignorance of the fact that we are happiness itself is what causes us to look for happiness outside. So this Nididhyasanam removes that vasana. That's also a vasana. That is actually part of Deha Vasana and Loka Vasana. So you expect happiness to come from outside, or you expect happiness to come from meeting the demands of your body. So when that weakens, you start realizing that you are really speaking Ananda Swarupam, and then you are able to enjoy that happiness and peace and not really be disturbed by anything that might even cause unhappiness, if at all. Yeah? So that is bhati. Sputam means very clearly, without any doubt. Yeah, that is 275. Yeah, somebody
Namaskar,
raised the hand.
Vasudev. Yes,
sir.
I did. Can you explain Soham a little bit for me, because I'm a Gyani on this topic at all completely.
Soham. Saha aham. I think I talked about it yesterday, or last week. So this Soham, I think we saw the Soham Bhavena somewhere in the previous shlokas also. I don't the screen.
Can't hear you.
Your voice is breaking.
Okay. I had some connection problem. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Can
Yes,
you all
Ji.
hear me? Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Is my screen visible?
Yes, Ji.
Yes.
Yeah. So at the top of the screen, you have the sloka 269. The second line, first word is Sohamityeva. Can you see that?
Yes, Ji.
Yeah. So that Soham is Saha and Aham. Okay. Saha means he. It's a pronoun. Aham means I. That's also a pronoun. So if you literally translate it, it is he, I. He hyphen I. Okay, what is that? He, I. It is nothing but an indication or pointer to the Mahavakyams like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, and all that. So he here Saha refers to Brahman. Aham means I. So I am none other than Brahman. So that is Soham. So it is actually a, there is a Gayatri called Hamsa Gayatri. No, Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmehe, Hamsa Hamsaya Dhimahi, Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat, or something like that. Yeah? Or Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmehe, Paramahamsaya Dhimahi. Yeah? I don't know how many of you have heard this. And this is a mantra that normally the sannyasis are supposed to chant. Okay. And so it's called Hamsa Gayatri. So there the Hamsaha is actually a reversal of Soham. Saha is called Hamsa. Okay. So it is basically a reminder of all the Mahavakyas. Okay. And do I need to explain what is a Mahavakya? I think I did it in one of the earlier classes, but do you want me to repeat my explanation of Mahavakyam?
Yes, a short
Anyone?
one would be helpful.
Yeah. So a Maha
Hello. I don't know if it's me or everybody's having.
No, I think
No, we
he's
all can't hear him.
I
right.
think
He is having
he
some
left and
connection
he'll
issues.
join again. Yeah.
Dropped off, it seems. Yeah. He's still not audible, right?
Not audible.
Okay.
He just wrote that he's trying to rejoin and fix the problem.
Can you now hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
join from my phone because my computer refuses to connect me to the call. So just give me a second. I'll put on my headset. Okay. So apologies for the poor connection and interruption. So I was explaining what is a Mahavakyam. So Mahavakyam is any sentence found in the Upanishad which equates the Jivatma and Paramatma. So there are many Mahavakyams like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma, and these are just 4 examples. There are so many more Mahavakyams. So you can understand the Mahavakyam like an equation. Many of you here in this group, they're all you're all very familiar with mathematics. Yeah. So in algebra, you have a lot of equations. X plus y equal to something something. So let's say I give you an equation: 3 plus 5 is equal to 4 into 2. Okay. So 3 plus 5 is 4 into 2 equal. So there is a left hand side which is 3 plus 5. The numbers are 3 and 5. The mathematical sign is plus. On the other side, you have 2 and 4, the multiplication sign. So the numbers and the signs are completely different on both sides. But we know that 3 plus 5 is 8 and 2 into 4 is 8. So the equation is there. So this Mahavakyam is something like that. When do we use an equation? You don't have an equation to say x equal to x. That makes no sense, because everybody knows x is equal to x. And you cannot have an equation that says 7 equal to 9. That's also not possible, because 7 is not equal to 9. So you bring an equation into picture only when the left hand side and the right hand side apparently are different. They appear to be different, but in essence they are really the same. Like the example I gave, 3 plus 5 is equal to 2 into 4. The left hand side looks very different, the right hand side looks very different, but if you do the multiplication and addition, you will know that it is 8 on both sides. Exactly like that, the Upanishad wants to tell you that what you think as Paramatma and what you think as Jivatma are only different in appearance, but their essential reality is the same. That teaching is given by the Mahavakyam. Okay, so that is a Mahavakyam, and that is what the Soham mantra points towards. Okay, so somebody has raised a hand. Is that Kishori ji? Yeah.
No, sorry.
Okay. Right. So I'm sorry, I can't share my screen now because I'm doing this from my phone. So you have to manage with the text at your end. Okay. So can we move on to 276?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have a printout.
Yeah, please.
I said I have a printout.
You have a printout. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll go to 276. Yatha yatha
Yatha
Yatha
yatha
yatha
pratyak
pratyaka
pratyaga
avasthitam manah
avasthitam manaha
avasthitam manah
tatha tatha
tatha
tatha
tatha
tatha
munchati
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 bahyavasanam
bahya vasanam
bhyavasanam
nishesha mokshe sati
nishesha mokshe
nisheshamokshe
sati
sati
vasananam
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 atmanubhuti
atmanubhutihi
atmanubhutiः
pratibandha shunya.
pratibandha shunya.
प्रतिबन्धशून्य
So, यथा यथा प्रत्यगवस्थितं मनः तथा तथा मुञ्चति बाह्यवासनां निःशेष मोक्षे सति वासनानाम् आत्मानुभूतिः प्रतिबन्धशून्या. So essentially the same idea being elaborated in different angles. So pratyak avasthitam manah. Pratyak means to be focused inward, which is again the idea of nididhyasanam. So pratyak avasthitam manah means a mind that has been trained through consistent nididhyasanam. Okay, yatha yatha, as and when, or yatha yatha, how do you translate it? Gradually, as you make progress, that is the meaning of yatha yatha. As you make gradual progress along the nididhyasanam exercise and your mind is able to be focused on the Vedantic teaching, tatha tatha, in that course, during the course of that process, munchati bahyavasanam. So the bahyavasanam is the reference to the vasana trayam. Lokavasana, dehavasana, shastravasana. Vasana, bahyavasanam munchati. Munchati means to become free from. So gradually, as the nididhyasanam makes progress over the weeks and months and maybe even years, the vasanas become slowly weakened, more and more weakened, and the mind becomes more and more free from the vasanas. Then nishesha mokshe sati vasananam. Moksham here is the, again, not the mukti that we talk for the jivan mukti, but here the moksham is with reference to the mind becoming free from the vasanas. Nishesha mokshe sati vasananam. So the more the vasanas are removed and the more the mind is free from the vasanas, atmanubhutihi pratibandha shunya. So pratibandha means obstruction. Pratibandha means obstruction. Pratibandha shunya means without obstruction, devoid of any obstruction. And atmanubhutihi here refers to the experience within quotes. When I say experience of Atma, you don't expect Atma to come and stand in front of you. No, it is the experience of the happiness that comes, or that one experiences, because of the teaching becoming stronger and stronger in the mind. That is what is here Atmanubhuti. That is, you start experiencing longer and longer periods of peace and happiness, and you also find that external events of disturbance are not able to affect you that much. You become sort of immune to what is happening in the outside world, and you are able to keep yourself calm even in the case, in the face of calamity, so to say. Yeah? So that strength, inner strength, one starts acquiring more and more with nididhyasana. That is the 276. I think I went a little fast. So if something is not clear, you can ask me to, pointedly repeat some part. I thought I went a little fast there. Let me know if it's okay. No problem. Okay. And can we go to 278? Oh, not 78, 77? Can someone say yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So 277. Swatmanyeva
Svatmanyeva
Svatmanyeva
sada sthitva
sada
sada
sthitva
sthitva
mano nashyati yoginah.
mano
mano
nashyati
nashyati
yoginah
yoginah
Vasananam kshayah
vasananam
vasananam kshayah
chatah
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 swadhyasapanayam kuru.
svadhyasapanayam
swadhyayas
kuru.
Okay. Swatmanyeva sada sthitva mano nashyati yoginah vasananam kshayaschatah swadhyasapanayam kuru. Okay. So the swadhyasapanayam kuru we saw in the fourth line of 270.
Yeah.
And there I told that we will start seeing this again for 9 more shlokas,
Yeah.
and that is the starting point here. So from 277 to 285, 9 shlokas plus 270, 10 shlokas you will get with Swadhyasapanayam Kuru as the fourth padam, exactly like how we saw earlier Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani in the earlier shlokas 254 to 263. So these are all very useful Nididhyasanam shlokas, and if you can manage to memorize these 10 plus 10, 20 shlokas, it's a very helpful tool to carry on with nididhyasana. Yeah? So, swatmanyeva sada sthitva. Swatmani eva means to be anchored in one's own atma or one's own true nature. What do you mean by anchoring? It means, again, it points to the nididhyasanam process where you try to harbor the thought constantly that aham brahmasmi, I am not this body, I am pure chaitanyam, I am not connected to anything, asangoham, all those thoughts, all those teachings which we heard in the Shravanam process have to be recollected and revised and reinforced in the mind. So that is Swatmanyeva Sada Sthitva. And in one of the earlier shlokas, we saw the word Atmanishtaya. That Atmanishtaya and Swatmanyeva Sada Sthitva are exactly synonymous. Only the words are different, the meaning is the same. So Swatmanyeva Sada Sthitva means Atmanishtaya, Nitya Atmanishtaya. Yeah. Mano nashyati yoginaha. Manaha is the mind. Nashyati means to get destroyed. Yoginaha means for the yogis. Now, this is a problematic statement. A lot of people talk about mano nashaha. And then people start expecting that their mind will completely be gone at some point. That's a completely wrong interpretation of this mano nasha concept. What is mano nasha concept? All the unwanted vasanas of the mind will get destroyed or weakened and become very feeble. Your mind cannot be destroyed in this janma. The mind destroys itself only when the yogi or the jnani attains videha mukti. I think I have explained what is jivan mukti and what is videha mukti. Jivan mukti is that phase of one's life for a jnani. After the jnani acquires jnanam, the jnani lives further as a jivan mukta. So that state of the jnani's life is called jivan mukti. And finally, when that jnani, his prarabdha is completed and his body comes to an end, he drops the body, his mind, his karana shariram, everything dissolves. And that is the point when the mind actually dissolves and destroys itself. Until such time, the jnani cannot get rid of his mind. So, mano nasha is not possible as long as the jnani is living. So, the word mano nasha should be understood as destruction of all the asuric and tamasic vasanas. Even the rajasic vasanas. Okay, and in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says even the sattvic vasanas have to be overcome. No, there he uses the word gunatita sauchyate. There in the 14th chapter, the Krishna uses the word gunatita. He's crossed even sattva guna. But we are not talking about that. No, we are talking about getting rid of all the inconvenient vasanas, all the negative vasanas, what we can classify as rakshasi and asuri vasanas. That is called here manonasha. Okay, so what the Acharya says in this shloka is, the more one practices nididhyasanam, the more one is able to get rid of all the negative vasanas, all the loka vasana, deha vasana and all that, which we saw as vasana trayam. Then vasananam kshayaha cha. Okay, so when manonasha goes, vasana also go. So that is the corollary. Ataha swadhyasa apanayam kuru. Ataha, therefore. Ataha means therefore. Swadhyasa apanayam kuru. So the word swadhyasa, as I explained earlier, is the wrong identification or the false identification with anatma, which we have been seeing in all the past shlokas as vasanatrayam. Deha vasana, loka vasana, Shastra Vasana, all other Vasanas, bank balance Vasana, all the property Vasana, everything, all included is here Swadhyasa. We identify so strongly with all these extraneous things that we lose sight of our true nature. That has to be stopped and reversed. That process has to be reversed, and that is Swadhyasa Apanayam. Kuru means do, perform, proceed on that path. Yeah. So we will see 8 more shlokas with Swadhyasa Apanayam Kuru, and today we have crossed our 9 o'clock limit. So if there are any questions, any discussions, we can have for a few minutes. Otherwise, I think we can chant our closing prayers and then conclude this session. Okay. No questions? Okay. So if there are no questions, let's complete the session. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Sarvesham Swastirбhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarvepi Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, I mean, I really missed the interactive, tone that we had in the previous sessions. But anyway, I think we managed to cover almost 7 shlokas, so that's also a lot of progress. But I would encourage people to once in a while, get some questions for discussion that keeps the session a little lively, and it also gives me the confidence that people are listening. Okay, right.
In
Yes.
fact, your session is so interesting that I love it if there is a pin of silence.
Okay. Okay. Right. I mean, I'm not asking people to interrupt me while I'm talking, but when I give a pause and ask, if there are any questions, I think I'm offering an opening for discussion, and I think that's an opportunity, people can make use of. Yeah, that's just a suggestion.
Okay.
But as I said in some session earlier, when I get no questions, I only have 2 options to imagine. Either people have understood everything perfectly or nothing is understood. So there are only 2 extremes. There is nothing in between. Okay. So I would like to imagine that you have understood everything and it's been a perfect session. But yeah, that's it. Okay.
Even if one understands, one has to digest to ask the question.
Okay. Anyway, thank you so much. So we'll meet next week
Yes.
again. Namaste. Yeah. Somebody
Thank
Thank
said
you.
you.
something.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you.